is Avi Posnick. Avi has flown down from New York early this morning to join us today. He is the outreach coordinator for a group known as Stand With Us. We're pleased to have him with us and grateful for his willingness to be with us today. Please welcome Avi Posnick.
My name is Avi Posnick. I'm the outreach coordinator for Stand With Us. Stand With Us is an Israel education and advocacy organization that ensures that the facts about Israel are told in communities, on college campuses, in high schools, in synagogues, churches, libraries, the media, and all over. I want to thank all of you for being here, and I want to thank the organizers for the invitation to come and address you all today. We're here today, Jews and non-Jews, to demonstrate our support for Israel. We're here to declare that Israel has the right to defend itself, the right of every sovereign nation in the world to defend itself and its citizens against terrorism. But we have seen recently how this right has come under attack. We have seen how the facts on the ground many times are distorted. When Israel is criticized for defending itself, after waiting years and enduring rocket attack after rocket attack, the facts are distorted. Let's quickly review what some of the facts on the ground are. For years, as mentioned by many of the speakers that are here, and that we all know, Israel has endured thousands of rockets upon its cities and towns. Israelis have lived in constant fear of when the next rocket will fall. In 2005, Israel left the Gaza Strip hoping that the citizens in the Gaza Strip will be able to establish a country for themselves and have their own country. We have seen, unfortunately, that instead Hamas, a terrorist organization, took control and has continuously fired rocket after rocket after rocket on Israel. In fact, even before 2005, since January of 2001 until December of 2008, terrorists in Gaza have launched over 8,165 rockets and mortar attacks on civilian communities in southern Israel. Israel finally exerted her right of self-defense. Yet there are those who say that Israel acted disproportionately in her response. They say that the situation was Israel's fault. What they don't seem to understand is that in war, there's no such thing as proportionality. Israel, which is a sovereign, democratic state, is fighting to defend its citizens against Hamas, a terrorist organization that calls for Israel's destruction, operates in the middle of civilian areas, and uses children as human shields. Israel goes out of its way to avoid killing civilians. Israel does its utmost to go after the terrorists and no one else. We say to those who accuse Israel of acting inappropriately that Israel must defend itself. We say to the world, Israel yes, terror no. Israel went into Gaza to defend itself. There were rallies that were taking place all over the country. One of them, many of them actually took place outside the United Nations in New York. I had the opportunity to speak at that rally, and after the rally, a reporter came up to me and said, "Don't you think that it's the United Nations' job to make peace amongst the parties, to bring the parties to the table?" What the reporter didn't seem to understand is that if the United Nations and the world really wanted peace, they would give Israel all the means necessary to defend herself. Wow. If the United States were fighting Al-Qaeda, the United Nations would not ask the United States for a ceasefire until Al-Qaeda was destroyed. Israel should not be asked to cease fire until Hamas, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad are all destroyed. In 2001, the United Nations organized a conference in Durban, South Africa, with the noble goal of addressing racism. Unfortunately, we all saw how that conference was hijacked and turned into an anti-Zionism, anti-Semitic hate fest. Once again, only over a month ago in April, the United Nations convened the Durban Review Conference in Geneva, Switzerland. Its first speaker was Iran's President Ahmadinejad, who has called Israel a cancer and has called for Israel to be wiped off the map. He is one of the worst human rights abusers in the world, and yet he was invited to speak at a conference that was promoted as a conference on human rights. Ahmadinejad used this opportunity to once again demonize Israel and accuse Israel and her supporters of racism. Thankfully, there were 10 nations, including the United States and Canada, that refused to attend the conference. And thankfully, there were dozens of European delegates, and I urge you, if you've not seen this, there were European delegates that got up in the middle of the speech and walked out. The question that we all have is, how is it possible for Israel to be called racist when Israel is the only democracy and open society in the Middle East? Everyone in Israel, whether you are a man, woman, Jew, Arab, Christian, has freedom of speech, religion, assembly, the right to vote, the right to participate in government. Arab citizens sit in the Knesset and even use it as a platform to criticize the government. Now, some feel that this is dangerous, but this is Israel's democracy. Israel is on the front lines of preserving and defending democracy against forces of terror. Israel is the only Jewish state in the world. Israel's right to exist and live in peace should be equal to the right of every other country in the world to exist and live in peace. To deny Israel the right to defend herself, to deny Israel the right to exist, is not only anti-Zionism, but it's anti-Semitic as well. Anti-Zionism is the new anti-Semitism. Israel, yes, terror, no. Israel acts against terror, Israel is condemned. When Israel takes action against Hamas, Israel is condemned. When Israel takes action against Hezbollah, Israel is condemned. Instead of asking Israel for a ceasefire, the UN should demand that the terror groups cease fire. If Hamas and the terror groups would put down their weapons, there would be peace. If Israel would put down her weapons, there would be no Israel. That the world realizes who is really at fault here. We must continue to educate ourselves and the world what the facts really are. At Stand With Us, we understand that when a lie is repeated often enough, people begin to believe it. We at Stand With Us will continue to educate our communities, leaders, and students about the facts. We all must take a stand now. We all must educate ourselves so that we can educate others now. I thank you all for coming. Let's continue to educate ourselves and to make sure we know the facts. Please continue to stand with us and stand with Israel. Thank you.